All right, ready to jump into drawing the heptagon, knowing full well the implications of magic that can happen. We are going to draw 3 different shapes with the first single template, and I'll tell you how we're going to do that as we get into it. But you're going to start with a single circle and go ahead and approximate the center of your page. We're going to use a 3-inch radius, right? So 3-inch width of your compass, and that's going to give us a 6-inch diameter circle. Nice and big, 3 different heptagons. Well, 1 heptagon, 2 heptagrams. Now, you want to draw the circle fairly light, because if you want to erase, it makes it a lot easier, and the star diagrams oftentimes want to stand alone without the circle. So once you've got your circle, you want to go ahead and pick the point on the vertical bottom, you can see it here, and make a half arc with your compass. Technically, you only need the intersecting points on the left and right to get these hash marks right here. But when you're starting out, I like to give you the whole process so that you can anchor in your memory what we're actually doing. And remember, I will always include sequencing and PDFs in the class module, so you never have to really remember what we're doing. So now, through those 2 lines, drawing lightly. This line looks really heavy. It's deceptively heavy, but draw a nice light line through the 2 points, the center point of the original circle and the point we just made at the bottom of the circle. So draw a vertical line that extends a little bit beyond the circle, but very light. This line is going to get erased. So now you want to create a horizontal line by connecting each intersecting point on the left and the right. I've marked them A and B, but that's also going to get erased. So just keep everything very non-committal. Get a nice horizontal line here. Now, the thing about the heptagon, it's interesting, part of the magic, it's true for all geometries that you want to try and get as precise as possible with the placement of your compass. But for some reason, the heptagon can get really thrown off even by a dull pencil lead. So I promise you, this is the way to do it, but it's also very common to be off a little bit, okay? So just a heads up. So now what you want to do is open your compass to the width of the center point here, the intersection, out to point A, or the intersections on the circle. So this is the width you want in your compass. And now you're going to get rid of everything else. Go ahead and erase the arc and the center to point what used to be B. We're going to make a whole new series of marks, and we don't want to complicate things. So all you need is the width from the vertical line out to point A. And now what you're going to do is place your compass right there on point A, make a mark up here, and then repeat that process the whole way around. It'll be 7 times. So then your compass point will go right on the mark that you just made until you have 7 points, right? And the bottom point is going to be off of the vertical line, right? It's not going to be on the vertical. Go ahead and darken in those points. Makes it easier to get that precision. Once you've got the 7 points, you can go ahead and erase that little horizontal line as well as the vertical line so that you just have the 7 points. If you label this point A, you can also go ahead and erase that. So all you want is the circle with the 7 points, and then go ahead and label them A through G as I've done in the image so that we can track point to point easily with the letters. So I want you to have about 4, maybe 5 pieces of paper underneath your drawing, and go ahead and take your compass point and really puncture through the paper at all the points. Give it a nice stab in there and pierce through 3 pieces of paper. So you're basically looking to get puncture holes on each point of A through G and also through the center point of the circle. And that's how we're just going to use the template for the heptagrams. So obviously, if you were to connect straight up A to B to C to D and all the way around, that would be your heptagon, right? That's your 7-sided polygon. We've got the circle that encloses it. It's a little deceptive, but it's just a simple regular polygon. So we're going to move on to the heptagrams. Much more exciting. So I mentioned it's a closed shape. So initially, as you're getting the practice, don't hold yourself to this method of drawing the shape. But you can start from point A and you're going to skip every other point, right? So you're going to go to A to C and then C to E and E to G and so on until you're back at point A. One thing that I like to do with this shape, which I can do in an in-person class, but it gets a little awkward on a recording, is I like to put on 3 or 4 minutes worth of a nice, easy, meditative music. And once you've got your heptagram drawn, then putting on a few minutes of music and either with a pen or your finger, tracing the geometry so that you get that rhythm of repeating the pattern. Let go of your focused, linear, detailed mind, and you just get into the flow and the feeling of the geometry. So I want to encourage you, if you're at all curious about that kind of practice, go ahead and pause me and give it a try. It yields remarkable insights. I wouldn't be encouraging it if it didn't actually pay off. Lots of times people will bring on their witness and their observational self and notice how fast they're going or how slow they're going or what kind of thoughts pop in or out, or just bringing consciousness to your day, bringing a moment of contemplative awareness, using the geometry for reflection. It's a really lovely practice. You can do it with this one, or you can do it with the next one. So now we're going to lift this heptagram up, and we're going to use the next piece of paper with our points in it. Go ahead and label them A through G again, similarly, starting at the same point. So fresh piece of paper, we're going to go for this heptagram, right? So this shape, we're skipping every third point, right? So we're getting a little Star Trek symbol here, but not quite. So we're going to draw from A down to D, D up to G, G down to C, and just taking a minute as you find the pattern. I will add that it is very unusual if you're getting precision, right? The shape is imprecisely precise, but as you're starting out, it's pretty unusual to get some symmetry, some 7-fold symmetry if that's possible. So don't give yourself a hard time, or if you're giving yourself a hard time, perhaps using that moment as an insight into your own process and seeing if there is any wiggle room, if you could give yourself a break in any way that you're starting a shape, that you're doing something for the first time. Whenever I teach in-person classes, I will always invite anyone who starts out by showing me a drawing and telling me what's wrong with it. I will always invite everyone to also tell me something that's good about it. So noticing critical voice that arises when we do art, noticing ways that we shut ourselves down with limiting beliefs about what we can and can't do. The geometry brings so much reflective wisdom because it's neutral. You know, even though we've laid on all these trips with the religions and the cultures and all of this using the sevens, no doubt, but it's also just clean. All of the geometry is so clean. It's going to show us to ourselves before you even color anything in. Now, I think you've got one more page with punctured holes in it. So you can repeat this geometry, but then fractalize it inward, which ends up looking like this, where you're repeating the pattern of connecting every other point. You have to do the first heptagram to know where the next points are, so I'll go back. Once you've got your heptagram, the original, then it's these intersection points that are guiding you. right? So you would, if you were to start here, you'd skip this one, you'd draw directly over to this intersection, and then you would draw up here and then up and over here. So again, it just, well, and then there's more and more and more, you keep on going. And I could get it down to about, looks like 5 iterations before I gave up and couldn't track anymore. I'll come out of the screen share. So hopefully the heptagon, heptagram, hexagram all provided inspiration for creativity and magic. And one last disclaimer, never underestimate the geometry and the power of its ability to transform your reality. Take care. Hope to see you again.